Hello, I'm John Eaton. Here is what I would like you to remember about me. I was born on the 3rd of January 1811 in the Hawkesbury town of Richmond in New South Wales. My parents were William and Jane Eaton. My father arrived in Port Jackson aboard the Admiral Barrington on the 16th of October 1791. My mother arrived in Sydney Cove on the 25th of October 1794. Both my parents were convicts. I was baptized with my sister, Susanna, and brothers, Daniel and George, in St. Matthew's Church of England, Windsor on the 15th of September 1811. We were back at St. Matthew's a few days later to bury my eldest brother, William. I spent the first few years of my life on the family farm at North Richmond, which my parents called Eatonville. When I was still a lad, I went to work in Sydney. My beloved mother died on the 1st of August 1823. She was buried in the St. Peter's Church of England cemetery 2 days later. I married my sweetheart, Mary Ann Onus, in St. Matthew's Church of England, Windsor on the 17th of January 1831. She had been born in Richmond on the 14th of August 1813, the daughter of Joseph and Ann Onus. Joseph had arrived in the colony aboard HMS Gladden on the 11th of March 1803 as a convict, and had been born at Parramatta on the 18th of April 1793, the daughter of Thomas and Elizabeth Ether. Both were convicts. We began to develop our farm at Wollumbi, which lay on the northern slope of a rugged hill. In 1833, Assistant Surveyor Dixon visited the district and soon discovered that all the farmers in the area were on the wrong land. We had actually settled on a piece of waste land and our selection was next door. Surveyor General Thomas Mitchell investigated the matter, and the outcome was that all recipients were obliged to move on to their correct allotments. Mary and I were very pleased with our new property, which we called Retreat Farm. That land had originally been allotted to my brother, George, but he had been killed in 1832. It was a much better block than the one we had been working on and consisted of fertile river flats. We obtained some skilled convict workmen from the government, and they helped us build a large 2-story home which were made from bricks made on the property. Pine and rosewood trees were cut and drawn over the face of the mountain and then shot over. The house faced a lagoon called the Horseshoe. Men's quarters and outhouses were also built. Mary and I had a large family of 13 children. Anne, born the 17th of April 1833, Mary and Elizabeth, born the 8th of May 1835, Jane, born the 13th of May 1837, Elizabeth Mary, born the 1st of July 1839, Susanna, born January 1842, Charlotta, born the 31st of March 1844, William, born the 20th of September 1847, Caroline, born the 22nd of March 1850. Martha Mary Richmond, born the 20th of September 1851, and twins, Veronica and Euphemia, born on the 1st of March 1854. Sadly, Caroline, as well as another 2 children, died in infancy. On the 11th of July, the Justices of the Peace at Patrick's Plain granted me a license to retail wines and malt, and also spirituous liquors in a house at Wollumbi Brook known as the Travellers' Inn. The license fee was £25. I didn't bother to renew the license the following year. When Mary's father, Joseph Onus, died in 1835, he left her 300 acres of land on Wollumbi Brook, as well as 5 cows. This land lay on the bend of a river a short distance from Retreat Farm. I received half of his sheep. As well as cattle and sheep, we also raised horses on Retreat Farm. 3 of the stallions to stand at stud were Clyde and Young Lincoln, who were wagon horses, and a carriage horse by the name of Young Providence. To feed my growing herd, I ran stock on my mother-in-law's property called Thuribri. I received a grant of 100 acres of land at Wollumbi Brook on the 5th of May 1841. In July 1842 I donated £5 to the Jerry's Plains Church Fund. That year I also took out a license to depasture stock on a run called Berriery. Joseph Onus Jr. and I were among the first squatters to move into the Moonee River district. The Aborigines were hostile in the area, and they drove off 1,100 of our cattle in 1843. Shortly after this we abandoned the run. That year I took up 5,000 acres of land in a narrow valley of the Richmond River. I called this run Rosebery. I was granted a license to depasture stock on the property in 1844. I applied for a lease on 1,840 acres of the property in the middle of 1848. It was estimated to have grazing capacity of 1,000 head of cattle. I had a house of pit-sawn timber built on Rosebery. A picket fence was erected to enclose the garden and the house. Trees and shrubs were planted. My family joined me about 1850. I leased Retreat Farm to my brother-in-law, William McAlpin. He was married to Mary's sister, Susanna. It wasn't long before I was looking for an even larger property to accommodate my ever-growing herd. I travelled to the Wide Bay region where I bought the lease for a property called Teebar in 1854 from Henry Caulfield. At the same time, I also purchased the leases of Yarumba and Waikalba from Henry. Both of these properties each covered an area of 16,000 acres and combined could carry a total of 8,000 sheep. Henry had suffered heavy losses in the recent drought. To make things much worse, his wife, Jessie, had died. She is buried on Teebar on the flats near Teebar Creek. Another property I purchased the lease to about this time was Cologam from Thomas Brome. It also consisted of 16,000 acres and could run 4,000 sheep. It is situated just to the north of Teebar. All of these properties are to the west of Maryborough. I travelled back to Rosebery to prepare for the family's trip to the new property. Rosebery was sold to George Spark, who owned a nearby property. I wanted Mary and the children to travel to Maryborough on the vessel that was carrying our belongings, as I thought it was much too dangerous to travel overland with us. She refused and insisted on coming with us. There is just no way you can reason with a woman. They will always get their way. As it turned out, Mary was right. The boat carrying our belongings was wrecked at the mouth of the Richmond River with the loss of all lives on board. Since that day I've taken more notice of Mary's advice. The trip overland, however, was made without serious mishap. The journey by bullock dray, which took place in 1855, took us over the range near Mount Lindsay and up the Brisbane Valley to Goods Inn, and then on to Baramba and Boobyjan before we finally reached Teebar. Well folks, it is late and I'm tired. Time for me to head off to bed. I might finish this story at a later date. Bye for now.